David was a shepherd. He was young, he was brave, he loved God. Every day, David took care of his sheep. He protected them from danger. He kept them safe. David trusted God to help him. One day, David's father asked him to do something important. He asked David to take food to his brothers. His brothers were soldiers in the Israelite army. They were fighting a war against the Philistines. David was happy to help. He loved his brothers and his country. David went to the battlefield. He carried food and messages from home. He was excited to see his brothers and hear about the war. He wanted to know how they were doing and if they needed anything. He missed them very much and prayed for their safety. When David arrived at the battlefield, he was shocked by what he saw. The Israelite army was lined up on one side of a valley. On the other side was the Philistine army, but there was something else, something scary. A giant. His name was Goliath. He was huge. He wore heavy armor and carried a massive spear. He was so big that his armor seemed like clothes and his spear like a stick. He had a booming voice that echoed across the valley. He shouted insults at the Israelites. He mocked their God. Goliath challenged the Israelites to a fight. He said, "Send me your best warrior. If he can defeat me, we will be your slaves. But if I win, you will be our slaves." Goliath laughed a cruel laugh. The Israelites were terrified. No one dared to face Goliath. He was too big, too strong, too scary. For 40 days, Goliath repeated his challenge. Every day, the Israelites trembled in fear. They felt helpless and hopeless. David's brothers were also afraid. They had never seen such a giant before. They wondered who could possibly fight him. They felt small and weak compared to him. They wished they were somewhere else. David was angry. He was angry at Goliath for being so mean. He was angry at the Philistines for attacking his people. But most of all, he was angry that Goliath was insulting his God. David loved God very much, and he would not let anyone disrespect him. Section 4. A Heart of Faith. David said to his brothers, "This is wrong. Someone must stop him. I will fight him." David's brothers laughed at him. You are just a shepherd boy. Goliath would crush you like a bug." David's words reached King Saul. He summoned David to his tent. Saul was a tall and impressive man, but he too seemed afraid of Goliath. He looked at David with doubt and curiosity. "You're just a boy," Saul said. "How can you possibly fight this giant?" David answered, "Your Majesty, I have faced lions and bears while protecting my sheep. God saved me from them. God will save me from Goliath too." Section 5. A Sling and a Stone. Saul was amazed by David's courage and faith. He saw in him something special, something that the other soldiers lacked. He agreed to let David fight Goliath. Saul offered David his own armor and sword, but they were too big and heavy for him. David decided to use what he knew best, his shepherd's staff, his sling, and 5 smooth stones from the stream. He knew that God would be with him, and that was all he needed. David walked towards Goliath, confident and fearless. Goliath was furious when he saw David. "You think you can defeat me with a stick?" he roared. "I will feed your flesh to the birds," David replied. "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel." Section 6. A Nation's Hope. David put a stone in his sling and swung it with all his might. The stone shot out like a bullet and struck Goliath right between his eyes. The giant fell to the ground with a loud thud. David had done it. He had defeated the giant. The Philistines were stunned. They panicked and ran away. The Israelites cheered and chased after them, shouting victory cries. They had won the battle thanks to David, the shepherd boy who trusted in God. David became a hero that day. He showed that courage is not about size or strength, but about faith and obedience to God. He taught everyone that nothing is impossible with God. He inspired generations to come with his story of faith and courage. David's victory over Goliath was more than just a battle won. It was a symbol of hope for all who face giants in their lives. It reminds us that no matter how big our problems may seem, God is bigger and he will fight for us if we trust him.